Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Futures League Rundown. I'm your host Ben Hayes. Last night was full of excitement as two teams clinched a playoff spot. Let's get right into the action. And we start this one off with the Bravehearts on the verge of clinching the West. Either a Worcester win or a Bristol loss would give the Bravehearts the pennant, and the Blues did not really stand a chance in this one. McDaniel Singleton was hot all night, going 4 for 4 with a double, knocking in 2 and scoring twice on his own. Tonight wasn't the only night he's been hot. On his current 5-game hitting streak, Singleton has a total of 12 hits. That's roughly 2.5 hits per game. Also on a 5-game hitting streak, Singleton's teammate Nick DiBenedetto, the pride of Trinity. He was 3 for 4 in this one with a 2-bagger. DiBenedetto scored 3 times and knocked in another one. Southern Maine's Jake Dexter would not need any more help than that. Dexter lowered his ERA to 1.96 on the season, good for 3rd in the league after tonight. He threw for 8 strong innings, allowing 1 run on 5 hits and striking out 3 to beat Bristol 14-1. And with that, the back-to-back defending champs have now clinched a first-round bye in the playoffs. Worcester got this news well before game time and might have celebrated a little too hard as the Bravehearts got blanked in their game against the Silver Knights last night. Sean Mooney out of St. John's pitched a gem for Nashua, as he also went for 8 innings, allowing 0 runs on 5 hits and striking out 6 Worcester batters. Bryant's Mickey Gasper went 2 for 5 and hit his 7th homer of the season. His .437 batting average still leads the league by a whopping 34 points. And Yanni Thanopoulos had himself another day, going 2 for 4 with a double and scoring twice, as the Amherst product extended his hitting streak to 14 games. Nashua wins this one 8-0, and they have now clinched a playoff berth as well. The Silver Knights are still battling for the division crown, but rest easy, Nashua fans, as your Silver Knights will at the very least be a wild card team. And the team that they're chasing in the East, the Seacoast Mavericks, had a doubleheader with the Sharks. Barry Buchowski from the U was the story of this one, as the Mavericks outfielder hit a grand salami in the bottom of the 8th to give Seacoast the lead and the win. This was only Buchowski's 2nd homer of the season, but we'll hear more about him later. Franklin Pierce's Stephen Octave chipped in as well with a trio of singles, knocking in 2 runs and scored once on his own as well. Southern New Hampshire's Mitchell Powers kept Seacoast in the game all night, as he has all season. Powers slung for 8 innings, giving up 3 runs on 11 hits and fanning 7 batters. He has now struck out 43 batters compared to 10 walks this season. The second leg was more of the same for the Mavericks, and more specifically, more of the same for Buchowski. The outfielder from Miami went yard in this one too, while also doubling on his way to a 2 RBI night. Keep in mind, Buchowski had only hit 1 homer this entire season entering tonight, and he had 2 here. But he would not be the only Maverick with 2 homers. Mike Hart out of UMass had 2 yabos in this game alone for his 3rd multi-homer game of the season. Hart drove in 3 runs in the win, and Oklahoma's Jeremiah Adams had his first triple of the season in his 2 for 4 night as the Mavericks sweep the doubleheader against the Vineyard. Seacoast has now passed Worcester for the best record in the Futures League, sitting at 32-15 on the season. Brockton hosted the Suns in the lowest scoring game of the night. Rob Andrioli from LIU Post tripled for just his 2nd extra base hit of the season. He would also single and come around to score both times. Troy's Chase Smart came through with the game-winning RBI single, which would be his lone hit of the game. Picking up the win in relief was Matt Fogarty out of Curry, as the left-hander pitched for 1 inning, allowing no earned runs on 1 hit and 1 walk, while striking out 2 batters. Rocks take this one 3-2 and get back to 500. In the final game of the night, the Titans beat the Dirt Dogs in Torrington by the score of 7-1. Nick Mondak pitched another gem for the Titans, tossing for 5 innings while shutting out Wachusett on 4 hits and striking out 6. He would pick up the win. Mondak's 1.14 ERA is the 2nd lowest in the Futures League this season, which means that the top 3 earned run averages in the league were all on the hill last night. URI's Mike Foley went deep for the second time of the season in his 2-for-4 day. He would also double on his way to a 2 RBI day. Also doubling was Mike DiMartino out of Southern Connecticut, as he went 2-for-4 with 2 runs batted in as well. And with that, the Titans improved to 18-27 on the year, good for 3rd place in the West, as we take a look at the division standings. Worcester, of course, has just won the pennant despite losing last night. They're at 31-16. The Blues dropped their 3rd game in a row to fall to 21-25 and is the final team eliminated from winning the West this season. However, that does not mean that Bristol has no chance of making the playoffs. Torrington sits at 18-27, just ahead of Wachusett at 18-28, and in last place in the West, the Pittsfield Suns are 17-28. Now over in the East, the Seacoast Mavericks still hold that top spot in the division, as well as now holding the top spot in the entire Futures League at 32-15. They're starting to smell blood now, as the Mavericks' magic number is down to 8. That means any combination of Seacoast wins and Nashua losses to equal the number 8 will clinch the pennant for the Mavericks. So if Seacoast wins 5 games and the Silver Knights lose 3 games, then the crown goes to the Mavericks, and any other combination like that. Still fighting for the pennant are the Nashua Silver Knights, as they sit at 29-17, 2.5 games back. The Brockton Rocks are the hottest team in the league right now, as their 5-game winning streak got Brockton back to 500 last night. They're still 8.5 games back of Seacoast. The Navigators got eliminated from winning the pennant last night, despite winning their 4th consecutive game. North Shore is a half game behind the Rocks, sitting at 9 games back of 1st place. Bringing up the caboose is the Vineyard, as the Sharks are also eliminated at 13 games back of Seacoast. The Sharks are 19-28. But 4 additional teams will make the playoffs in the wild card. The Silver Knights clinched a spot with their win last night. Brockton is 2 games up in the standings at 23-23. Their magic number is 7. The Navigators also have a magic number of 7, as they are a half game behind Brockton, but still 1.5 games up in the standings. Bristol rounds out the final playoff spot at this point in time, as their record is 21-25. The Blues' magic number is 9. Martha's Vineyard and Torrington are tied for 5th place, as they sit 2.5 games behind Bristol. The Dirt Dogs are in 7th place at 18-28, 3 games back of the Blues. And in the basement of the league, the Pittsfield Suns sit at 17-28. However, they still have a real chance of making the playoffs, as they are just 3.5 games back from the final playoff spot. Now time for your player and pitcher of the night, brought to you by On Deck Sports, the official sponsor of the Futures League. And the On Deck Sports player of the night goes to Mike Hart of the Seacoast Mavericks, as the UMass outfielder went yard twice in the second game of the Mavericks doubleheader for his 3rd multi-homer game of the season. Hart drove in 3 runs and scored 3 times himself as well. The On Deck Sports pitcher of the night goes to Sean Mooney of the Nashua Silver Knights, as the right-hander from St. John's pitched a gem to clinch a playoff berth for the Knights. Mooney slung for 8 innings, shutting out the Bravehearts while allowing 5 hits and striking out 6 batters. And tonight we have a full slate of games, as all 10 teams are taking the field. Let's take a look at the matchups. The Rocks will head to Seacoast to take on the Mavericks. The Silver Knights welcome the Dirt Dogs to Nashua. The Martha's Vineyard Sharks will take a ferry over to the mainland to take on the Navigators. The Bristol Blues welcome Torrington back to Bristol. And the Worcester Bravehearts will take on the Pittsfield Suns in Worcester. And that's today's rundown. Be sure to head out to the ballpark closest to you to enjoy the Futures League in person. And of course, give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Until next time, I'm your host, Ben Hayes. See you guys tomorrow.